Our chief editor Ubaldo got caught napping during a press conference by Rafael Nadal. Rafael Nadal during his post-match press conference, Australian Open 2019, photo at Australian Open Twitter. It doesn't happen very often that someone in the press corps at a Grand Slam tournament gets into the spotlight, even if for just a few hours. Well, that happened to our chief editor Ubaldo during day one of the 2019 Australian Open. While he was taking part to Rafael Nadal's after-match press conference, Ubaldo, who had arrived in Melbourne only 24 hours earlier and still had to get over the jet lag, fell asleep while sitting in one of the chairs in the interview room, and things got rolling from there. "I had slept only 3 hours the night before and it had already been a very stressful day," Ubaldo said after the curious incident, "so I dozed off a little. I was sitting next to Benito Barbadillo, Nadal's agent, someone Rafa looks at very frequently during press conferences. Apparently, coaching doesn't happen only on court. I guess Nadal saw me sleeping, and then said what you can see in the video, that his press conference was not that interesting that day. Benito nudged me with his elbow and woke me up, and at that point I realized that everyone was looking at me, including Rafa, who said, Buongiorno Ubaldo.
Sleeping face, nothing gets past at Rafael Nadal.
I started receiving WhatsApp messages," Ubaldo continued, "mainly from my daughter sending me URLs of websites reporting the fact. She urged me to put the video on Instagram, which I did, with the help of my colleagues. Well, it's still good publicity for Ubitennis. One way or another, Ubitennis is always at the forefront of tennis. It was a tough day at the office for Japan's top male player.
It was a far from perfect start at the Australian Open for Japanese 8th seed Kei Nishikori on Tuesday.
The former US Open finalist looked on course for a shock defeat to Polish player Kamil Majchrzak before an unfortunate turn of events went in his favor. After an hour and 40 minutes of play, Nishikori trailed the match by 2-0 before his opponent was hit by severe cramping that severely impacted his movement. As a consequence, Nishikori clawed his way back to force a decider before a devastated Majchrzak called it quits with the score at 3-6, 6-7, 6, 6-0, 6-2, 3-0. "It's unfortunate how we finished. I feel sorry for him. I wouldn't say it was a good game, because of how it ended, but I have to be happy for the next round," Nishikori said. "I didn't play badly, but I have to give credit to my opponent who played better. He was amazing defensively and was stronger than I had imagined. His movements were restricted after the injuries, and all I tried to do was not lose my concentration." Nishikori's scare comes after what has been a solid start to his 2019 season. At the Brisbane International, he defeated Daniil Medvedev in the final to win the title. His first on the ATP World Tour since February 2016. In Melbourne, he is hoping for a deep run with the goal of raising up the rankings. Nishikori is currently ranked 9th in the world, but hasn't been in the top 8 since July 2017. "I have to be happy about reaching the next round because I almost lost today," Nishikori reflected. "I will try to be more positive for the next round and hope I can keep playing better. I'm really happy to be back at the Australian Open, because last year I missed it due to my wrist injury. I hope I can have a good 2 weeks. There will be no room for complacency in his second-round match." Nishikori is set to next face Ivo Karlovic, who fired 39 aces during his first-round win over Poland's Hubert Hurkacz. Karlovic is the oldest man in the draw at the age of 39 and is playing in his 16th consecutive Australian Open main draw. Nishikori leads Karlovic 3-2 in their head-to-head. It was a case of sweet revenge for the world number 38 at Melbourne Park. British number 1 Johanna Konta required almost 3 hours to get through her opening match at the Australian Open on Tuesday. The 2016 semi-finalist battled past home player Ajla Tomljanovic 7-6, 7-4, 2, 6, 7, 6, 10-7, in the blistering conditions at Melbourne Park. Kanta, who is unseeded in the draw, fired 16 aces and 47 winners past her opponent. However, she could only convert 1 out of her 9 breakpoint opportunities against Tomljanovic. "I'm feeling a little shaky on the legs, it's hot out here, very humid. I'm looking forward to getting inside and starting the recovery process," Kanta told British Eurosport afterwards. "I am really happy to have come through that. She played some incredible tennis and sometimes I had to hang tough there. Besides some stiff resistance from across the court, Kanta had to also contend with the weather with temperatures expected to peak at 33°C in the city." Despite being born in Sydney, the world number 38 admitted that she found it tough to deal with the conditions. "When the wine stops, it's like you're in a steam room more than anything," she said. "You try to put it at the back of your mind as much as possible. Everyone is going through the same thing." The win is a case of sweet revenge for Kanta. Earlier in the month she suffered a straight sets loss to the Australian in Brisbane. Following a turbulent second half of 2018, the 27-year-old is hoping to get back on track in the near future. Kanta has only managed to win back-to-back matches in 2 out of the past 10 tournaments since August. During that time, she opted to enlist the help of new coach Dmitry Zaviolov. Awaiting the Brit in the second round will be 2-time Grand Slam champion Garbiñe Muguruza. Muguruza dropped only 5 games during her 6-2, 6-3 win over China's Zheng Saisai, hitting 23 winners, 18 unforced errors and breaking Saisai's serve 4 times in the match. Pliskova threw elsewhere in the draw. Former world number 1 Karolina Pliskova made a winning start. The Czech 7th seed dismissed Karolina Muchova, 6-3, 6-2. Pliskova, who recently won the Brisbane International, is bidding to reach the quarter-final stage in Melbourne for the 3rd consecutive time. She will take on America's Madison Bringle next. "I think I started really well today," Pliskova said during her on-court interview. "I was feeling great, even in the warm-up. After the off-season, everyone's looking forward to these tournaments in Australia. I'm always happy here. I don't know why, but I always play good tennis here, and the atmosphere is always really great. I'm always happy to come back," she added. There was bitter disappointment for world number 10 Daria Kasatkina. The Russian lost 12 consecutive games as she crashed out 6-3, 6-0 to Switzerland's Tima Baksinski. Her error-stricken performance featured 9 double faults and 24 unforced errors. Carla Suarez Navarro, Anastasia Sevastova and Camila Giorgi also progressed into the second round. The 3-time Grand Slam champion speaks out about his next step and the possibility of returning to the tour. Following a match that had been described as possibly the last of his career, Andy Murray admits that even he is unsure about what the future has in store for him. The former world number 1 crashed out in a 5-set thriller to Roberto Bautista Agut at the Australian Open on Monday. Just minutes after his loss, Murray intrigued many when he said, "I'll do everything possible to try. If I want to go again, I'll need to have a big operation where there's no guarantees." Was this an indication that the British player is considering a U-turn on his decision to retire? Not entirely. Murray underwent surgery on his hip 12 months ago in Australia, but continued to experience pain since then. The Brit is now in talks with medical experts about having a second operation, one similar to what doubles specialist Mike Bryan underwent last August. "I have basically like 2 options. One is to take the next 4.5 months off, then build up and play Wimbledon," Murray explained in his press conference. "Although tonight was not comfortable in terms of my hip. At the end, I'm really struggling. I can't walk properly at all just now. I could play another match, but if I want to try to play again, I want to improve my quality of life because even if I take 4 months, I still can't walk. I'm still in pain doing just basic day-to-day things. But having an operation like that, there's absolutely no guarantees I'd be able to play again. I'm fully aware of that. It's a really big operation. There's no guarantees that you can come back from that. But there is the possibility, because guys have done it before. It is this unpredictability that is raising doubts about the remainder of Murray's career. One that has seen him win 45 ATP titles and become the first player to defend an Olympic title. Should Melbourne be the city where he played his last match, the 31-year-old can take solace in his latest performance. "This might be my last match. If I go ahead with the operation, I don't recover well from it, then I don't play again. I'm aware of that," said Murray. "If today was my last match, it was a brilliant way to finish, as well. That's something that I'll probably take into consideration. It was an amazing atmosphere. I literally gave everything that I had on the court, fought as best as I could, and performed a lot better than what I should have done without the amount I've been able to practice and train." A decision on whether or not to go ahead with the operation will be made within the next week or so. Asked about an estimated recovery time, Murray refused to put a limit on it.